Hey everybody, Russ Mangson here. Welcome to the Namra podcast. I'm here today with guest Derrick Taylor with KeepWise Consulting. He's a financial advisor and he specializes in small business planning and financial advising. So we're excited to talk to him a little bit about what he does and how it relates to what we do on the marketing side of things. So let's get right into it. How's it going, man? Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, man. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. Good to have you here. We met about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago at Neshoba Valley Chamber breakfast event.
Yeah.
Great event. Shout out to the Neshoba Chamber.
Yeah, gas station breakfast. Who would have thought it'd be so good?
Yeah. All Town Fresh. Shout out to them.
Yep.
It was great. Always love those types of events, and it was a solid turnout considering it was 7 a.m.
Yeah, it was a good time. That was a great event.
Yep, absolutely. And so we started talking. You told me you had just started your business. You were a financial advisor before, right?
Yeah, so I had started my business previously in 2017, outsourced finance and accounting, right? So bookkeeping through like advisory service. Got recruited by one of my clients into a full-time role, and now I'm kind of rolling off of that back into my business full-time. So I'm excited to be gearing back up again. And that's kind of where we kind of connected that first time, right? I'm really in those early stages again of restarting. So it's an exciting time, a little nerve-wracking, naturally, but
yeah, awesome. Well,
time.
Congratulations on the new venture.
Yeah.
Tell me about KeepWise. Like, what exactly do you guys do?
Yeah, so outsourced finance and accounting, right? We want to be a partner to our clients, to small businesses. So all the way from the low level, tactical level bookkeeping services to make sure that your financial records are in order, through to financial modeling, planning, business planning, strategic advice, that type of stuff. That's really where we want to specialize, right? We want to bring kind of that larger corporation ability, right, for being able to do financial modeling and consult. My background in the past few years has been in consulting, management consulting. So taking those abilities, those different financial modeling tools that we've been able to gather over these past few years and bringing that to small business, really to help to level up small business performance that isn't just trying to get through week to week, but really getting a hold of and a handle of where are we headed? How are we going to get there?
Awesome
stuff. So bringing that strategic advice into the bookkeeping, financial record keeping space.
Yeah, awesome. At what stage in business are people usually at when they start working with you?
Yeah, so a lot of startups for sure, like first year or two, because a lot of people don't know what they don't know when it comes to that stuff, and they'd rather be safe than sorry. We hear enough horror stories from the IRS that people just want to make sure they're doing it right. So that's definitely a very common thing for people to reach out to us there. And once you find a good partner in this area, in the space of money, people really want to maintain those relationships. So it's not easy to get someone to switch from one provider to another unless there's like some sort of issue, right? So we do have a lot of success finding people early on in their journey. And then really through referrals, networking, we find other people who don't realize they have a problem, right? They have to kind of learn about, oh, I can predict what my revenue is going to be like 12 months from now. How do we do that? Because they've never really thought to do it or have the time to do it, really.
Yep. Awesome. So what does that process look like when you're working with startups? What are all the costs that you guys factor in? Yeah. I'm interested to know, because I know marketing is not like it should be, but like it's right. In many cases, we work with clients who are like 6, 7, 8, 10 years in business, and they still like barely have a marketing budget, or they basically just have like their savings is their marketing budget for the next year.
Yeah.
So how does that whole process work starting up?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the key thing for any business is understanding how will you get new customers, right? So every business has to be able to answer that question, and marketing is a key part of that. A lot of people will just assume they're going to get it. Like somehow, some way, someone's going to find out about it and they're just going to start showing up. I work with a lot of companies in the trades, and so that is even a common thing that we'll put our sign out in front of our job site, and the calls will just start coming in. But it doesn't work that way, right? Especially not anymore, where people work from home now most of the time, so they're not driving out, going to and from work and seeing what you're doing to other houses. that makes you a desirable person. Like social media is huge in certain spaces. So the key question to me is always from the very beginning, doesn't matter when it is, like day 1 to day 1,000, how are we going to get new customers? How are we going to generate revenue? And marketing has to be part of that in some capacity, right? Maybe for some it's more, some it's less, but you have to understand what you're doing to bring in new customers. And if you don't know that, then you'll never know where to put your money. But marketing is one of those things. Any other lead generation is one of those things where it should always have a return. So it's an investment, right? It's not an expense. It's not a natural expense, right? It's an investment that you need to make to grow your business. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm interested to know, how do you plan out like the first year marketing strategy with your clients financially? Like what are they sort of looking at and planning for?
Yeah. The key thing there, again, kind of goes into that, bringing the financial modeling into small business, right? Where you're measuring ROI in a way that isn't just let's throw some money at this and see what happens, right? You have to have an expectation like we're going to spend this much money and we're going to expect that there's this much return to know that it was valuable and we're expecting it in this period of time. So it's really about establishing what are our metrics for success. And again, everyone's going to have a different threshold for what they're willing to risk, if as it were, right? And determining whether or not we're willing to spend X amount of money per month or per year for X amount of return. But you have to really identify what those metrics are, and then based on what type of business you are, what type of capital you have at the beginning, here's how much money we're going to invest into this specific area, because you really need to. You just have to determine what is how wide are we going to open up the faucet, right? It's good, but no matter what, even if you're not paying for certain marketing services, right? You're probably doing them. You're posting things online. You're creating your Google page. You're creating your Facebook page, your LinkedIn page, things like that. Those are kind of like nowadays, like that's like on the day 1 of on your business, like the people that sell 100-day business plans, right? I feel like I haven't really looked at those, but I feel like that's probably on day 1, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
You need that.
Set up the accounts.
Yeah, your domain, like buy your domain, like that's huge, right? Because that's part of it.
Yeah, and I always tell people too, there's 2 ways that this is going to happen. You're either going to pay somebody to do it or you're doing it yourself. So it's either monetary dollars or hourly dollars on your end. So
there's cost no matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. I totally agree. And I think, being an outsourced service, right? I'm a huge proponent in outsourcing certain critical functions within businesses. Marketing is one of those things. Finance and accounting is it's a critical function within a business. If you don't have it, then you don't really have a business or at least legally, right? So you need those sort of things that you're going to need to run a business. You should find ways to have the right people in place early on, whether it's on your team, it's yourself if you have certain expertise, or it's outsourced partners to really help you to make sure that those things are going to be functioning really well as you get going, because you're going to need them no matter what, and it's going to cost you no matter what.
Yep, 100%. Couldn't agree more. And I think that's one of the things that unfortunately, like, it's a revolving door. The marketing side of things for most businesses, like you look at a span of 10 or 20 years for most like mom and pop shop businesses, and they've worked with like 8 to 12 marketing companies over 20 years, and they hate them all.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's like this thing, and this is sort of like why we do what we do at Namra. It's like we're trying to partner with people so you can actually trust the team that you've hired for a long period of time moving forward to build out like a real plan, a sustainable plan, one that's not breaking your bank, but that actually makes sense, that covers your short-term and long-term goals equally, and it's something that you can get behind and trust. And most people don't trust their marketing plans, so they're insecure about it, and then they like backtrack and restart something totally new. And that's like the downfall that we see to a lot of small to medium-sized business growth is like they don't know how to market. They don't know how to take advantage of the fact that they've been in business for 20 years. Like their digital presence does not represent a 20-year business with a great reputation. So we're trying to teach them how to do that.
Yeah, that's really good.
And in the first year, it's very difficult. Like you said, it's either at like hours or money that you're spending on outsourcing it. And most startups, like they haven't generated revenue yet.
Right.
Like especially those contractors, like they have no customers, they have no money.
Yep.
So
that's right.
You've got to figure out a way to kind of like bootstrap your way up in the marketing game and get yourself to the point where you can even afford to like hire a video guy, hire a social media manager.
Yep. And that's really, it's all part of planning, right? Like you have to, what are the gates that we have to get through in order for us to take the next step, right? Like I would say when someone's starting a business, right, you want to be, you want to make sure that you actually have some demand in the market for your service or your product. And so let's get some customers first. Let's start generating some revenue through the bootstrapping it, right? And then you start to see, as you start to get some margin, you have some money to invest in expanding those revenue streams or how you're meeting those customers. So you have to always be thinking about that. But yeah, having gates for, when we get to this point, that's when we're going to look to implement a marketing strategy.
Yep.
And that's kind of what you were saying initially really kind of is pulling on me, and something I totally agree with. Like having a strategy at the outset, a plan that we know what it means to be successful. Like we've defined success based on this strategy, then you can pivot if things aren't working, right? Whereas I think a lot of small business owners get frustrated with, any partner, right? Marketing maybe, but also others, I'm sure.
Sure.
Right? Where the goalposts feel like they always change because we've never like actually sat down and defined success as a partnership. Like how do we know if this is working or not? And so always, I think that's a key thing within business in any function you have to be doing. How do we know if we're doing this right? And if not, if we don't hit our markers, maybe we need to change our markers. Like our milestones need to be different, or we're just not doing it right. We need to do something different. We need to change something else. Right. So I think that's having a plan, having a partner who is willing to always point back to the plan and pivot when things don't go perfect, right? Because everyone's going to make mistakes. Things aren't always going to go the way we want them to.
Yeah.
If it was that easy, right, we'd all be doing it. Right?
Oh, I say that all the time. Yeah. If marketing was easy, we'd be millionaires, and there would only be like 3 of us. Like it would be super, But nobody has this magic bullet marketing plan. It's hard work. Every single one of our clients is different. We have different relationships with them. We have different packages with them, and their business is in a totally different place, in a different industry, even if it's the same industry.
Right.
And they're in different towns. Like every factor's, a variable.
Right.
Everyone they know matters when we're managing their social media. When we post a video, we are at the mercy of who knows these people and how good are they, like reputation wise in their industry.
Right.
And some of them are great, and the first video does huge numbers and everybody loves them and shares it. Sometimes we post a video and nothing happens.
Yeah.
So it's our job to handle it either way and communicate properly with the client and say, okay, this is where we're at. Like maybe your organic isn't as strong as we hoped. That means we do need to invest a little bit more in the paid advertising side to like boost your Facebook advertising a little bit and like put these videos in front of more people. Whereas the other guy whose video blew up on the first go, he can kind of focus on the organic side of things and like just keep posting like consistently and do that. So like that's where we pivot on the marketing side, and most people just switch marketing companies. Our goal is to be your marketing company who you trust to handle all of those different situations for you. And so much of that is education. Right. You're like you're explaining to customers who, again, this isn't their day job. Right. This is part of their business. Right. So you're teaching them even before you start, which I think is really valuable too, like explaining to people what are the things that could go wrong here before they pay you $1. Yeah, that's a huge, it's like conversation 1 in our sales process. It's like, just so you know, like social media is not just like a turn it on and you're winning sort of thing. Exactly. It's like a forever process. Like this is day 1 of hopefully 10 years of growth on social media. And so because all of it's learning too. Like I have clients that I'll build out like a financial forecast, right? We're looking at a rolling 24-month financial model, and I'll explain like at the first, when we start this, like you might get frustrated, like why are we reviewing this? It's never accurate, like because we're learning. Like we have to, with information, we can make these things more accurate long term. We have to get that information though. We can't just if I could just roll it out, I'd be selling a SaaS product, and someone else would have created a really good SaaS product that could be that predictive right out of the gate. But businesses are so different that it takes time to figure out, like you said, geography, the network of the leadership, like who are they connected with on LinkedIn and all this, like, and who are they connected with? Like there's so many different variables that from a marketing perspective, you certainly can't predict it, but then even holistically, there's so many things you need to learn in order to make some of those things really effective long term. And that's an education piece to explain to customers that it takes time.
to get this to be where we want it to be. But if we're patient and we continue to invest in improving it, it's going to get better, and it's going to be really valuable.
Yep, 100%. I've been comparing myself more and more to a financial advisor of marketing, because that's everything we preach is the long-term model. Just like the daily deposits of investments, like post every day, keep things consistent, and over time you grow.
Yeah.
But you have to be okay with the slow season in the beginning. It's just like investing. But that's also just a testament to a good consultant will tell you, like, if there's no past data, I'm not going to make a prediction.
Right.
And so many of our clients, we say, like, have you ever run a Facebook ad? Have you ever like actually posted every day for a year? No, then we don't know what to predict.
Yeah.
Like we can't say, because we're going to be doing that for the first time for you.
Yep.
So your market's different than everybody else's page we've ever managed, and your budget's a little bit different than every other page we've managed. So showing you success of our clients doesn't even make a difference. We just have to work with you on where you guys are at.
Yep.
So yeah, and I think honest people admit that. And
I agree. I think it helps to build trust. Like, and with those external partnerships, it's critical to have a lot of trust there, and to be able to see that relationship grow. That's kind of why I do love working with early stage companies, because the relationship really can grow together, which is really cool to be a part of things like that.
Yep, 100%. Awesome, man. I love that we're on the same page in terms of that longevity piece. I think we knew that right away. We got along pretty well right off the bat. Seems like you're a genuine guy helping people because you love to help.
Yeah,
and we're the same way.
Yeah.
So that's greatly appreciated. So I was showing you earlier. We paused for a second. Just like a little table of like the necessary things that most businesses need when they get started in business, like the foundational marketing aspects. And you had mentioned, you recommend a lot of those similar things. Like, you need to have a website, so that's going to be built into the upfront costs.
Yep.
Either you or somebody else is going to have to set up your Google business profile, get your social media pages in place. You're going to need a logo. You're going to need maybe a brand guide if you're more professional business and you want to come out super professional. We do brand guides that are like the logo plus the colors plus the fonts and how to use them, and it's like a 25-page document on like the Bible of your brand, and how you and future franchises are gonna keep the brand consistent. So like, some people need to account for that too. Ongoing video production, somebody to post for you. All of these things are a factor. So my goal is to educate business owners over time that like these things need to be treated as utilities just as much as like turning the lights on and keeping the heat on in your business is accounted for in that startup plan.
Yeah, it's going to be baked into your startup costs, right? Like that it has to be figured in there because the marketplace is so different. How people meet the vendors that they work with, whether it's B2B or B2C, it doesn't really matter. Like, how people meet the companies that they're going to do business with has changed, right? Like, it's not always personal interaction, right? I'll meet some customers just because they met me, and they won't really associate the work they do with my firm with my company at all. They'll associate it with me, like, I work with Derrick. I don't work with what's the name of the company again? They won't really remember. They won't think of KeepWise. They won't think of Namra for you. They'll think of Russ. I work with Russ, and so it's that will happen, but it will happen sparingly, right? Especially the way that people find partners now. It's just not how it works. It's like online dating. Like, people don't meet their like, it's so normal now people meet their spouses online. Like, and that's different even from when I was. I mean, you and I are early 30s. Like, when I met my wife, that was like a different thing. It was starting, but it was different. Now, like, it's really normal. Like, a lot of people meet the people they end up marrying that way. And it's the same way with business. Like, people they do business with people that they meet, people they know in person, and that's important. But a lot more people will do business virtually. And you have to have a presence there. So it has to be a startup cost.
100%. We always recommend super conservative startup costs on the ongoing side of things. Like, we're not trying to break the bank in the beginning because, like I said, you don't know what that first video is going to do. And if you're a brand new business and you have no reputation and no one knows about you, You can't start investing like thousands of dollars a month in a video production. It's not going to go well. So you need to grind it out on your cell phone for a couple of years. Yeah. And so that's what we try to work with people on is like, how do you use $100 a month to your advantage for the first 2 years so that like eventually you can have like a $400 a month budget and then $1,000 a month, and you can pay for a couple actual videos every month and like get a crew out every once in a while on a job site. And it's like those benchmarks that you mentioned, like on the financial side, same thing. Yeah. It's like there's different phases that every business needs to go through in order to grow in marketing. So we're like, our first year with most clients is figuring out like, what phase are you in? It's like data collection, running a few test ads, keeping them consistent on social media so we can audit where they're actually at. Then we know, all right, here's how to move forward. We want to get you to the point where you're spending a little bit more next year and a little bit more next year on advertising, and eventually you get it to pay for itself. Yeah, but in the beginning, you need to be conservative and test things out and see like what messaging resonates with people. Until you've done like 1,000 different topic videos, you don't know which topic resonates with people the most. You have to try them all. Right. And then eventually we get the marketing dialed in because we've tested a whole bunch of things. We know which topics hit. We know which videos did better. We know which graphics work better because we've tested a ton. And then it gets all dialed in and fun. Yep. But sometimes that takes a couple of years working with a client where like they're super comfortable on camera. They're really communicating like better than they ever have about their business. If they're like, second or third year, you're still getting your like messaging in place. You still don't know your elevator pitch, perfect down pat yet. So like all those things matter and matter when you work with a company like us and like you're trying to communicate your marketing strategy and your vision. Yeah. It all adds up. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It compounds, right? So it's really, I totally agree with you. I think, like we said before too, like having those gates, at what points will we start to expand what we're doing, right? We're starting with a steady drip, and then eventually it's going to get bigger and bigger. When do we open it up, right? What happened? We added another customer, right? Depending on your business, maybe you work with a few really large customers, right? Starting off with 2, and then when we get to a 3rd customer, that's when we're going to start doing even more, right? Things like that. Right. So having those things in your, like from the very beginning, working with a company like you guys who can come in strategically say, this is where you're at. This is how we should really incrementally get there. Yeah. And let's determine when to start doing more. Right? It doesn't make sense to do it more right now, maybe. Right. So I think, again, it all goes back to that trust and that partnership, like working with people who they're not only in it to, for their top line, they're in it for the partnership. They're in it for to see long-term relationships. Yeah. It's huge, right? Yep. And that's why I love working with small business, right? Because it's, there's agencies that do what you guys do, but a huge scale, right? And any small business they work with is just another. Yeah. Not that it's all bad people or anything like that, but you're a customer. It is what it is. Yep. One customer out of thousands sometimes, and same with me, right? Like you're gonna be one customer out of potentially thousands, right? I'd rather have that real relationship, real partnership. That I'm a real person on the other side, and I'm invested in your business's success because it means my business's success. Versus these other companies, like you're just a number, and so if you floundered, at least we made our money off you.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
That's a tough place to be.
Yep. No, we've been so invested in our clients since day one, because when we started, it was literally just knocking on doors and walking in and being like, "Hey, we'll post for you, like if you need help." And we have been super invested, and they've become, some of them are friends, family at this point. Working with clients, we're 8 years old. We've worked with some clients for 8 years, and we've seen how they've grown, and like their social media is in a crazy better place. Like how it compounds over 8 years when you started really basic. Over the years, it's crazy how things can grow. Yeah. So that part of it is fun and rewarding, and that's what we love to do. We try to bring that as we start working with bigger clients. We start to bring that same like ethos into the relationship. That's huge. Yep. Here's like a tactical question for you. What percentage of like annual revenue do you recommend most businesses spend on marketing?
That's a great question. My thought, I'll use the word ethos. I like that word. On allocation of revenue, typically I try to avoid like a percentage, right? Because sometimes it just depends on where the business is at, what works and what doesn't. But when it comes to early stage, like percentage of revenue, I mean, when it comes to business development and marketing activity, it's all related. I think marketing, I'd be curious to hear what you think. Is like marketing is more of a long game than kind of your normal, going to an event type of thing, right? So it's a longer term investment.
Yep.
But I think between those two, something like 20% of revenue probably should be allocated toward especially at the early stages, towards business development and marketing. And that might go down. That percentage might go down over time because at the beginning you really need to prove a concept. Like, are we actually selling something that people want?
Yep.
And are we able to sell it, or do we need to figure out a different solution there? So I'd say like early on it can be higher, right, than even that 20%. But it really depends on the makeup of your team, the nature of your business, gross margins, all that sort of stuff. But I'd say it's something that needs to be invested in early and often, for sure.
Yep, couldn't agree more. And the sort of like tipping point example that we always give on the financial side for like the ROI of long-term branding versus short-term just running ads is that as you build your brand and like actually have it like grow organically where people know, like trust you, and the word of mouth is viral because of your consistency on social media without running ads. As that grows, your need to run ads shrinks.
Right.
So you actually, because social media is free, you're going to probably end up paying somebody to post for you. But aside from that, like you're capped at whatever you're paying that person to manage Facebook for. And you don't need to run ads because your organic is so powerful. Yeah. Like Nike doesn't you're going to buy Nike because it's Nike. They don't rely on their ads to bring in new business. They rely on ads to do like short-term sales, but their brand, the longevity, that's what really brings in 98% of their sales.
Right.
So that's like what we try to preach. It's hard for small businesses to wrap their head around like a 20-year like branding strategy.
Right.
But the end goal is so impactful on their finances. Like you can spend less on marketing if you do a good job marketing up front.
Right. Well, it's even like we're talking about now, how we want to relate to our customers as being a trusted partner. You're doing the same thing through that branding and consistent branding and early in creating that presence. You're creating trust.
Yep.
You're building trust with your potential customers that this company is seems to have values that I want to work with them. I want them to provide the service to me, or I want to buy their product. I want to see them succeed. I'd like because in a way, a customer, even if it's direct to consumer, a customer is kind of partnering with you in this purchase. Like they're choosing your product over somebody else's. And so it's it's all part of that same thing, right? Where you're selling trust, really, no matter what industry you're in. There's obviously like instances if it's geographical based, right? That people only have so many options, but for the most part, we're all selling trust, and there's a discerning buyer. The buyers are discerning, right? They know who they want to work with. Yep.
But brand is often thought of as just like the logo, just the color scheme, but brand is really every single touch point with a customer or potential customer your business has. It's every first impression you make in person. It is the logo and the brand, but it's every part of the customer experience is all part of the brand. Yeah. It all matters.
Right.
And so we have that conversation with clients too. Like, we're putting you out there as your best selves. Yeah. We have to continue being our best selves in real life, because it can go downhill quick if you're not delivering on your service. So when you put yourself out there, it's important to not oversell. Just be honest about what you can do. Right. That's what we've always tried to do. Right. And we're doing okay with that. People now people are realizing why we haven't sold as hard, because they understand no, we're just being honest about the work we're doing. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, even the littlest things. I recently rebranded my business to KeepWise Partners from previously it was called Reconciled Consulting. But in that whole process of rebranding, one of the things that in building a brand, not just a logo, it wasn't just a new logo, new name. It was wanting to make sure that my customers knew that in this company, like it's about like we're here for your information security. This is about dealing with money, right? So financial information is secure, easy to communicate, all that sort of stuff. Like we're a collaborative company. We want to work with you. We don't want to just, send you a report once a month, from a bot. We want to be working with you regularly. So like even having something like a customer portal, like from the people I was working with around branding was like, this would be really valuable, right? To continue to build the perception from your customers, and not a false perception, but a real perception of security, that they know that their information is going to be accessible. You're not hiding things from them. Everything's there. And so it goes a long way. Again, especially when you're working with people you don't get to meet face to face all the time, that you're trustworthy. Your company is trustworthy. You're in good hands, right? And it's little things like that go towards building up the brand that you're trying to build.
Yep.
Right. I would never normally think about that. I'd be like, yeah, of course I want security is important. Communication is important. I'm all for that. I'm happy to write those things down on our website.
Right.
But actually doing things that align with those values is actually that's really what goes towards building your brand long term.
Yep. Yeah. That's huge. Collaborating with industry partners is huge. Yeah. We've given this example a million times on the podcast, but like an insurance agency client of ours really built a strong business on the back of just networking with their partners. Like they did a lot of home insurance, so they networked a ton with realtors and did videos with realtors, talked about their process, and more importantly, talked about how they could improve their process to work better with realtors, to make the home buying process easier for everyone involved. The agency is a small part of that, but they were like, how do we make this process frictionless? They kind of had those conversations on video and like did podcasts like this and like kind of worked it out, networked with them, spotlighted their referral partners and all that. Yeah. But the result of it was they actually learned how to improve their team and their processes. So now they are like absolutely killing it, and all these people love them and share all their stuff. Right. So it's like this perfect like hybrid of marrying the marketing to improving your processes, and everybody finds out and it works great.
Right. That's really good. Like if you can figure out ways like that to get a return that's even non-monetary, I mean, or it's monetary in a different way, like a process improvement that improves your customer experience. Like that's like finding things like that will help you to get better, and they're creating content for you, for your partners, and that's wow.
A big part of what we do
I'm
with
glad that I'm not in I could never think of ideas like that.
Well, that one client was like 6 years ago. We were brand new to working on social media for people, so we were just posting for you. We weren't doing a whole lot of brainstorming at that point. But they came to us with that idea of just like, well, we want to do videos with our referral partners. Yeah. And that's become a huge strategy now for a lot of our clients. We just recommend everybody does that basically. Like do videos with your referral partners, because for a lot of professional services businesses, the ROI of social media isn't usually like the end consumer, it's referral partners. Yeah. So I want to connect with video production companies who are going to refer me more business, more than I expect people to hire me because of the podcast. Right. And that is huge. And that's how I sell it to clients too. I'm like, it's not always about like getting a ton of calls. Like if we're running huge Facebook ads, yes, we want calls and clicks to the website, and that's a whole traffic driving and conversion based strategy. But the long-term branding side, it's really about putting yourself out there in a professional light, enhancing the networking you're already doing, and trying to open new doors. So maybe you don't get a ton of like click to call action on the site with this campaign, but if you get a new referral partner this year from the videos you've done or the podcast you started or whatever, it's all worth it, Yeah, that's a really great point. So like you have to really know if a company's starting an initiative like this, like they're going to do some video podcast, whatever it's going to be, like they having a clear understanding of what is my goal here? Like what is the objective of working on this? And the outcomes that are going to come from it, right? A referral partner, and maybe there's some ancillary things, maybe there's additional benefits that you can document there, like maybe someone will click click an ad link or something like that. But sometimes, like you said, that's just secondary. That's gravy on top of it, right? Yeah, but it all depends. It's literally just it's two different strategies.
Right.
You know, we can go either way.
Right.
But,
so you need to know what it is you're doing, right? That what is it that you're trying to get out of it, because you don't want to miss a great outcome here with a referral partner because you're not getting something that maybe you shouldn't even necessarily be hoping for in this, or hoping for is not the right word, but shouldn't be the primary objective.
Shouldn't be, exactly.
Right.
Yep,
It's
exactly.
a secondary thing. So really having the partners who can tell you, you know, that this is valuable for this reason.
Yep.
This is why you want to do it.
Yep.
And then you can make those decisions based on the value of those things, right? So.
Yeah. A lot of people just don't even appreciate how custom you can make your messaging now in marketing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the last 20, 30 years, it was like the land of the billboard. So everything's like a bumper sticker message, like, you know, short, sweet, here's our promo, here's our offer, and the logo's bright. And, you know, that was marketing back in the day. Now you have full control over what you run as a Facebook ad. You can shoot the video directly talking to these exact people in this town if you want to, and target those exact people with, you know, X income in this town with 2 kids and a dog, all that.
Oh my goodness.
And you can shoot the video directly to them, and you can make the graphics like specifically appeal to them. Wow. So people neglect how custom it can get and like how little you can spend on an ad that's hyper targeted towards like a certain town, because you're not just like buying a TV commercial and throwing everything at, you know, the whole state and hopefully someone calls. It's way more targeted. You can like pick a very tight audience and target them over the course of like 6 or 12 months strategically, and spend $100 a month where you would have wasted $2,000 a month previously on like traditional marketing.
Wow. I'll tell you, that gives me 2 thoughts. One is I'm glad I'm not on Facebook anymore. I can't believe how much information they have on everybody.
Oh, yeah.
But 2 is like, that is crazy. Like, to think that you can be that direct, right, with the marketing that you're doing.
Yeah.
That precise is
and
really
controlling the narrative is so important. You know, it doesn't just have to be like, hey, this is who I am and these are my services. You can tell a story. You can talk about like how you got started, how it's a family business. You can show customer testimonials. You can do so many things and hit people like with one video 1 month, another video the next month, another video the next month, where like you're telling people a story and you're hitting the same people over the course of a year. And by the end of the year, they really know you. And then you can hit them with like a call to action or something like that. Right. But depending on the business, you do need to warm customers up for a year. And that's what we talk to, you know, with clients up front about is also like, what's the buying cycle of a typical customer? Because a marketing strategy for a restaurant where like people get hungry every day and it's an impulse decision on where to go, the strategy for them is way different than like a financial advisor who's looking to, you know, sign a few clients a month and like build a professional reputation over a longer period of time. Those marketing strategies are so drastically different. Right. You know? Yeah, the education of the customer is so different. Yeah, like if restaurants, I feel like, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that would be a little bit easier. You got a picture of this, you know. Yeah. Well, that's just Google. Food. It's Google Ads. Yeah. So you just like top search in your local area, you know, at dinner time. Yeah. And that's just, and you could see the direct result of a Facebook ad, you know, within, if you're like having an event this weekend, you can run ads that, you know, the couple days before, and you can actually get people to show up that weekend. Right. But there's other clients we work with where if we're not promoting the event 6 months before, which means you planned it 8 months before, like then we're screwed. And it's way too late because it's like, you know, a $300 ticket to a seminar at a conference center, and like it's a big investment. You have to really sell people on who you are and what you do, and they're going to need to see it and think about it and book the weekend in the hotel, and that's a whole different plan. Exactly. That's crazy. So that's where we come in, is like we've seen everything. We've worked with hundreds of businesses over the last 8 years. We bring a lot of experience. We know what works and doesn't work for the most part. Yeah. And I can eyeball people's profiles and figure out like where they're at and make pretty solid recommendations on like that checkpoint wise where they're at, like what their sort of outlook is going to need to be over the next like 1 year, then 5 years, then 10 years. Right. You work with enough companies that eventually you start to say, here's some things I know we'll have to work on. Exactly. And how long it'll take. Yeah. You can start to ballpark it. Exactly. Yeah. And you know, there's this tipping point. I have another graphic on my computer, like just a very basic exponential curve. Yeah. And that's how everyone grows on social media.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of business owners who are in that like lower left-hand corner, and they're going to have to fight for like 4 or 5 years on that like very small curve until eventually they get to the point where they have like 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 followers on Instagram, and like there's momentum built.
Yeah.
But every influencer who got to 50,000 started at 0,
right?
Worked their way up to 1,000 and earned it,
right?
And so that's what we have to work with people on, is like, here you have 100 followers,
right?
And no one really knows you. You're new to town. It's a new business. How are we going to get you to 1,000 people who know you this year? Because that's like hard to do, even.
Yeah,
you know, and those benchmarks is sort of like where we come in on the advisory.
Yeah, and that's like what's really important about that is like you're kind of demonstrating that value right away, right? It's not like, you know, stick this out for 7 or 8 years and eventually you'll get up to that top right quadrant where you want to be. But in the meantime, you're kind of you're investing a ton of money and you're not really going to see the value, but it's incremental value that is there. So it's not like, yeah, you're making a huge investment. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But it's really, there's bits of value that are there that, you know, you're building up over time.
Yep.
Right. It's not an all or nothing. Matter. Right.
Yep. And you're never going to shrink.
Yeah.
Like there's ups and downs. When we look at insights on Facebook for clients, it literally looks like the stock market. Like if you go back 5 years on any client account, the whole thing is just up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, the whole way, but it trends up always. Because no one's shrinking. You post once a week for 5 years, you're going to have more followers than you did 5 years ago. You're not going to shrink. You're not going to get canceled. Like everything will be, you'll grow one by one, maybe not fast, but like, you know, you can get from 200 to 500 followers in a year just by posting once a day, even if it's crap.
Yeah.
People will find you. You'll slowly grow. And when you really start to activate things and plan things out, it goes faster. But you're not going to shrink. That's what I always tell people. You know,
you start at 0.
Daily deposits.
Start at 0, then you're guaranteed to grow.
Exactly. You can't. Like, yeah, exactly. Everyone starts at 0.
Yeah,
There's not a single influencer on social media. Well, some people like buy accounts that are already at like 100,000 followers, but that's a whole different thing. But any like actual influencer who built their way up, they started with 0.
Yeah.
And they self-taught. They made 1,000 videos on their phone before they hired a video guy.
Right.
Then they hired one video guy, then 2, and then the editing got better, and now they have a show, and now their podcast is blowing up.
Yeah.
But it always built up organically.
Right. Well, even the person who buys an account that has a ton of followers, that's a startup cost, right? They're investing money into marketing. They're just taking a shortcut.
Yep, exactly.
Because maybe they have more capital to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets fun.
Yeah.
This podcast is more for the small businesses who are working their way up. But the strategy for like, if you just say, okay, we have $1 million, what can we do with it?
Right.
We're talking results really quick.
Right.
We can go crazy.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Most small businesses don't have $1 million. They have a couple $100 a month that they can kind of squeak into Facebook ads or like a video or 2 here or there. So spending that money strategically and with confidence is so important.
Oh yeah.
Not getting screwed by somebody who's just selling you something to sell you something is so important. That's like why we do what we do. That's our why.
Yeah.
Is like, we're the honest guys. We're not here to screw you. And like, we work with a bunch of different video producers, and we know the prices. Like we know web developers who you can trust, and our job is to be that resource, from the agency perspective.
Yeah.
That's where we want to be, is like our partners you can trust our team. We're just going to point you in the right direction. Even if we're not like the right fit client wise, or you're not ready to hire our full level of service, I can help. Right. I can at least point you in the right direction.
Yeah, that's where we're so aligned, because I feel the exact same way, right? I want to be helping small businesses because personally, like it's to me, like I would rather everybody work in smaller companies. Like that's what to me makes communities, not just the dollars in the bank accounts of the owner, but the community around these businesses becomes stronger when small business is doing well. There's something to like the mom and pops that bring people together. That's like when you think about old old towns, like in old town centers, right? That you walk down Main Street and there's these mom and pops that are there.
And the owners.
Everyone knows each other. Like, and I'm not trying to appeal to like this old time thing. I want us all to go back to that, but that there is something special about that.
Yeah,
right?
It's much more feel good.
Yeah, you do. That people know each other, and people from all different walks of life and different backgrounds, and can have relationships with one another that thrives, I think, because the commerce of a geography can be strong. If it's stronger, I think those relationships are stronger. Mm-hmm. And so I really do believe in the importance of small business for that reason, right? That's kind of that why, going back to that, like you said, that I want to help. I want you to succeed. I want that business to do really well. Yep. And that benefits me, so I'm not going to, I wouldn't lie about that, right? Like it's not like I'm doing it for free.
Right, of course.
Right? But it means something, right? Yeah. That other companies are doing really well. That's a really positive thing to be a part of. Yep,
I agree. Community-wise, same thing. Like on the marketing side, I gave like a little roundtable talk a couple weeks ago, and I said, once everybody starts doing it, everybody's going to start doing it. Yeah. Like that's what's going to tip the scale on social media, and it kind of already is there in many industries, but there's still some industries. Like I was talking to this guy, and he was like, well, I can't do those collaboration videos with referral partners because none of my referral partners are on social media. Like it's just a bunch of like older people. They're late in their career. They hate it. They don't want to be on social media. And so this guy was like ready to commit to like being more active online and like wanted to learn about Facebook. But he's like, but I can't do videos with my guys because like they all suck at this too.
Right.
So education, like that's why that's a big thing for us, is like we want to give people the confidence to approach social media from an authentic perspective, like really be yourself online. Don't be afraid to have people on like your videos and like collaborate with people, like get the community involved. Right. Realtors especially, that's huge. Like Gary Vaynerchuk, he has this thing about how realtors should try to be the mayor of their town. Like online, you should be the digital mayor of your town. Like you should go around, you should be interviewing all the local business owners. You should be spotlighting local businesses, spotlighting like just anyone. Just do wholesome stuff, promote the community, become involved, and that's how you build like a good, strong local brand. Yeah. And like you said, it enhances like just the overall culture of the town and the area too. It enhances everything, the economy.
It builds up people. Yeah. I think that's really like a huge trend, just business in general, right? Is becoming more and more people focused, right? That there's the more that we can build up the community around us, the stronger, the rising tide lifts all boats thing, right? So I think that's true in that respect. Yep. So it's so important finding those things for realtors, like you said. That's a really natural thing. Like let's make our town seem great. More people want to move here.
Yeah, exactly.
And because it probably in a lot of respects is great, and so finding those ways to engage your community, no matter what industry you're in, is really critical.
Yeah, and just being positive with social media. Yeah. It can be a negative place, and I understand why everybody hates social media, but it also can be a good thing. Like if you unfollow all the negative people, they're not in your feed anymore. Right. Yeah. That's half the battle. Like I've always told people, like, you don't hate Facebook, you hate your friends.
That's right.
You just unfollow your friends, and then you'll have a fresh news feed, and you can just watch whatever you want. All I see is golf and sports and like marketing stuff on my Instagram. It's everything I'm interested in.
That would be a great tagline on social media. I don't know if you've used that before. Like, you don't hate social media, you don't hate Facebook, you hate your friends. You should unfollow those people.
Yeah.
That's 100%. Actually really good.
It's so true. And like we have so many people, like business owners, who are so negative about social media. They're like, I hate Facebook, I don't want to do videos. And it's like, look, man, like
that's me.
You have full control over like what you put out there and what you consume on these platforms. You can be a positive influence. You can be like a guy who provides good in education about your industry. You can be the upbeat, just do your best, right? And put good vibes out there and consume good vibes. Consume education and entertainment that you like and that doesn't piss you off.
Right. That's right.
It's hard to do. I get it. but
it's worth it, right?
Yeah.
And I think, and it's similar to what you said like earlier, as far as, if once everyone starts doing it, then everyone will be doing it. Mm-hmm. It could be a similar effect, right? Just having that positive influence and impact on social media. Like, eventually the negativity gets drowned out.
Yeah.
over time.
We all just have to use it for good.
That's right.
We'll get there.
That's right.
Awesome, man.
That's right.
Anything else you want to go over? I think that's a decent place to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think so as well. I don't think there's anything else
Sweet.
in particular.
Sweet. Well, thank you again for coming in. It was great to chop it up with you.
Yeah, man. It was. I really appreciate it. It was a great time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll tag you and everything. How do people find you online or website, social media?
Website is keepwise.partners. So www.keepwise.partners. Social media, again, we just rebranded, so we're starting up on LinkedIn only for now. But
nice.
After this conversation, we'll see where we're headed. So.
That's fine. I say do one platform well first before you expand to others. So crush LinkedIn.
We'll do our best on LinkedIn.
I love it. I'll keep an eye out for you.
Yeah.
I love it. We'll be watching. All right, man. Thanks. Thanks, guys.